Hey everyone, welcome back to the weekly podcast, No More Excuses. Yes, I am your host, Sandi Ballard, the badass business coach. And yes, it's Monday, time for some motivation, right? Well, thank you first for being here, for sharing this podcast with others, and for investing in you, taking the time to listen, to watch, whatever you're doing with this podcast and Videocast. So thanks again for being here. So yes, today and this week on social media, I want to talk about expectations. It's such a harsh word, I should say. Expect. It's something that we expect. It's something that's likely to happen in our minds, right? It's likely to happen in our minds. And we have to remember that. I've been told more than once, you didn't expect so much from people, you wouldn't be disappointed. Well, it's such a fine line, right? We want to expect the best from people. We want to expect help. We want to expect them, staff, volunteers, partners, whatever it is, to do their part, right? We expect customers, clients to come in and buy and do what we need them to do, right? We expect if we get a website, start a business, open a business, a retail location, we expect people to come in and support us, right? We expect if we have a booth at a trade show to show up. We expect if we put something out on social media or have a sale, we expect people to take advantage of it, right? Yeah, there's a lot of expecting there. And I've talked to a couple clients recently about managing those expectations. And the big thing with all of this expecting is to be clear with your communication, to manage boundaries and to hold your own self accountable. Be clear, especially if you're I guess communicating with others, setting those expectations early on. So say you're communicating with staff or a business partner or a partner at home or kids, I don't know, setting those expectations early enough. I expect you to take out the trash. I expect you to do your part in the business. I expect you to do your job, right? Well, manage those by communicating effectively. And as a DISC certified coach, it's one of the things I talk a lot with my clients about is clear communication. That if it's unclear or you think it's clear in your mind, there can be a lot of shit happening with expectations there. We can't just assume. It's sort of that I guess maybe those two words, assume and expect, kind of play hand in hand sometimes, right? Reinforce the expectations with reminders, align them with skills and abilities, right? So if you're expecting someone, maybe a volunteer, years ago, one of my first worksheets I just was telling the story to someone, was a nonprofit I was on. And the leader, director, whatever you want to call her, she was fantastic. She's a friend of mine. She still is a friend of mine. And I was on the board and, she and I were talking one day and she was just super frustrated. And she was expecting her board to help. But even I was on the board and I had no idea what she needed help with. And she's like, I don't understand. I come in, I talk, I tell everybody what I need. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm on the board and I don't even know what you need. So I created this worksheet for her. It was very simple. What's falling off your plate? I've talked a lot about that over the years. Your to-do list. If it's something that just keeps getting carried over from one week to another, one day to another day, and all of a sudden, a week later, 3 months later, that little task is still on there. That's called what's falling off your plate. So I created this worksheet for her and she filled it out. The next board meeting, she came in and she was clear with what she needed help with versus expecting us to understand what she needed help with. It was amazing. Even I raised my hand. I was like, hey, I can help with that. Somebody else was like, oh, I know someone that can help with that. And it was just, I don't want to say life-changing, but it was a big shift for her communication, for her expectations of the board. And the organization as a whole. So again, being clear, not just expecting, assuming someone understands what you need help with, right? So making sure you're thinking about that. So, if you're sitting here thinking, okay, yeah, I expected so-and-so to understand, or I expected so-and-so to show up and help, or I expected, 300 people, 10 people, whatever, to buy off my sale or my social media ad, what were those expectations? Were they real? Were they reasonable? You have to think through a lot of those things, and just making sure everyone understands. Obviously, if you're sort of expecting that this sale or this promotion or this new product or service that you're offering is going to be life-changing for everyone, is it, or is it what you think other people need and want? So, it's a lot. Yes. And as a business coach, I deal with a lot of these expectations all the time with clients, talking them off the ledge as far as what they thought, what they expected, what they assumed people would do and respond and buy and not buy, right? And want. So, today I just really want you to think through, if there's been some recent disappointment in your life, in your business, what's going on around that? Did you just throw something out there, or did you just expect somebody, like I said, take out the trash, or clean the cat box, or I don't know, help with the laundry? Instead, we just huffed and puffed around it. Be clear with your communication. And at the office, did you just expect someone to jump in and help because you're busy? Did they see that you were busy? Well, and I have one client that, oh my gosh, I have a lot of clients, but this one client in particular, there's this constant battle between the departments. And it's really like, oh, well, they're not as busy as we are. Well, the phones, I hear this, and you know who you are if you're listening to this podcast. The phones have been the bane of everyone's existence for years. So and so, or that department's not answering the phone. They're not helping out. They don't understand. And we're expecting everyone to be on the phones. Well, everyone works differently. If you're in the middle of a project, if you're in the middle of doing something that really needs attention and thinking through something, you can't expect everyone to drop what they're doing and answer a phone or to help a customer. Yes, you should be courteous and all that. If somebody's in front of you, maybe you could say, hey, just a second, right? But there is those false expectations between these two departments that so-and-so is working harder than the other, and vice versa. And they expect them to jump on the phone anytime it just barely rings, but you don't know what somebody else is working on. And you might work differently than the other person. Again, DISC certified. I'm like, remember who you're talking at, remember who you're supposed to be communicating with, and remember who you are working alongside. Different departments, it really is amazing to see how they're loaded up with one personality type versus another. So, that's just another example of expecting someone to jump in when you don't understand what they're going through themselves. So, yeah, just thinking through. So, a lot of things have been going on. We're halfway through the year, and yeah, what do you expect from yourself? Why don't you think about that first? Because you are going to only be as strong and as good as everyone around you, right? So, what are you expecting from yourself? Because you can't expect anything more from somebody else. If you're not willing to put in the work, put in the effort, put in the badassness, and do your part, right? All right. So, expectations, something that's going to happen in your mind, right? Like I said, with the skill set, aligning that's sort of with that nonprofit, but also any position. If you just say you don't own the business, but you work there, or you're a manager, leader, what are you expecting from your staff? And is that aligned with their true skill set? Yes, you're supposed to hire someone based on their skill set, but things sometimes get, a little muddy, and a lot of times even we have to work outside of our zone, right? Work outside of what we were hired to do. But you can't just expect someone to jump in and do that if they don't understand how. Well, first off, they don't understand that you need the help. Secondly, they don't understand how to do that task or sell that product or service. So making sure everything is clear. And yes, boundaries, 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 boundaries. If you feel like pressure, or you're getting pressure from outside forces, people are expecting you to do things. And well, no is a complete sentence. I love that quote. I can't remember who said that, but no is a complete sentence. Making sure you set stronger boundaries. I did a group coaching session last week, and that was one of the things that came out of that. Set stronger boundaries because people invade your space. They expect you to jump when they need help. Well, you have shit to do, right? Right? Setting stronger boundaries so people understand, hey, just because a lot of us are working from home half for years. I mean, my God, I've worked from home for the majority of the 29 years I've been an entrepreneur. I've had an office, worked back at home, had an office, worked back at home, had both, still did whatever I needed to do. Sometimes worked at the office and came back and worked at home. But since a lot of us are working from home now, or working hybrid, you can't just expect someone to be there all the time. And if it's family members, if it's friends, I had one client that he just was like, oh my gosh, his office was in the garage. It was a really cool roofer, renovated garage. So it didn't just look like a garage. It was a pretty kick-ass office. And he's like, my wife is inside with the 4 kids. They had littles. And he's like, they just pop in whenever they want. They don't think I'm working. They expect him to be around. Yeah, sometimes you might need help. Like, the other day I couldn't open the freaking salsa jar. I needed help with that. But I'm not going to expect someone to be there to do that for me. So yeah, he would get super frustrated with the fact that they would just walk in because they expected him to be available because he was right there, but he was in the office, right? And if you're a manager or leader of I don't care if it's 2 people or 200 people, right? Setting those boundaries, setting the clear expectations that if I'm working on a project or if I'm in the office, even though the office is in the house or maybe in the garage, at the garage outside of the house, there's office hours, boundaries, 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 right? So setting those expectations that I'll be available, I'll be back at lunchtime, being clear. I'll have lunch with you and the kids. I'll have snack time with you and the kids, but making sure those things are set up properly and they can't just pop in or shouldn't unless there's an emergency, right? But doing that. So another example of a client, he would go and he was constantly being bothered by staff with questions. Hey, got a minute? Hey, got a minute? Hey, what about this? Or can you look at this? And he was overwhelmed, frustrated, and not getting his work done. So one of the things we came up with was for him to put a whiteboard outside of his office and close his door. Because before it didn't always happen, but he was clear with his staff and said, okay, if my door is closed, there's the whiteboard outside my door, write your name on it, write your question or what you need help with. And when I am available, I will come out and I will go down the list. And having that available, having what you need help with or your question, concern, whatever it is, he was already able to process that or prepare for when he went to get that person. So he set the expectations, he let them know what that was about, and then set the boundary by closing that door, having that there. So yeah, I mean, even the man Candy, he had his desk right in the middle of his staff, which he thought was great until, hey, got a second? Hey, got a second? Turn around in his chair. Hey, got a second? Hey, got a second? It's like, write down the questions. And I'm like, how about you move over to that desk where it's just 10 feet away? You could still see your staff, but you're not right there in the middle of it. Sometimes you think being in the middle of everybody is going to be a great energy, synergy. You can huddle whenever you want, but when you remove yourself, even if it's just that few extra feet, it's setting that clear expectation that I'm over here. And also setting that clear expectation that if you have a question, write it down. He doesn't have a door. So write your questions down and come to me, or send a message and say, hey, when are you available? I have a few things to go over with you. So there you are, setting clear expectations, clear communication, boundaries. So when we are looking at what we expect from people and what's expected of ourselves, we're not disappointed, we're not frustrated, we're not overwhelmed. I mean, nothing's going to be foolproof, right? But it's getting started. So figure out if you're in an office or at home and you have other individuals in your home while you're working, what can you do? Set the expectations and the boundaries, right? And think about, like I said, if you just launched a new product or service or put a sale out there or ran an ad, are your expectations real? You want 300 people, you want to buy, you want 10 people to sign up, you want this, you expected it, you thought, oh, this is just kick ass, this is going to be amazing, everybody's going to buy with this sale, or this is a new product or service and everybody's going to love it, right? Be real, be reasonable. And yes, disappointment may happen, but use that as an opportunity to go, okay, what happened? Did I do everything I could have done? Was it as great as I thought it was going to be? Which means you. And get some feedback, get some input, right? Maybe you had people come to your open house, but no one bought anything, like a furniture open house or a retail open house or whatever, restaurant open house. Maybe you did a webinar and no one bought, or just a couple people bought versus everyone, right? Get some feedback. Maybe there's somebody on the webinar or somebody that came to the open house or the sale and you know them. Ask for their opinion. Say, hey, because a lot of times we have friends and family that come to support us, but we aren't expecting them to buy. They're there to support and be a body, and that's great. So ask them if they could give you some insight as to what they saw, heard, thought, felt, that kind of thing. So, and sometimes you'll get great feedback and go, you know what? I just don't know. Everything was amazing. I would have bought if I needed that, but I was here just to support you. All right. Shit like that happens, but just try to get some feedback on that, tweak it and do it again. If you're passionate about whatever, if it was a new product or service or a new pizza flavor or a new menu, whatever, get some feedback, tweak it, keep trying. Because again, if you're passionate about what you do, then you're going to just, you might get a little flatlined, you might get a little deflated, but make sure your expectations aren't more than reality. And, feel the feels, feel the disappointment, feel the emptiness, whatever, it is. But then think about it, think through it, take a nap, take a walk, take a run, go work out, do whatever you need to do, have a taco, I don't know, whatever you can do, and then get back at it again. So, all right. Today was all about expectations, being clear with your communication, being clear with your expectations on both sides, strong boundaries, and don't give up. All right. And no more excuses. Don't say, well, that didn't work, I'm done. All right. If you need help, I'm here. Sandi at sandiballard.com. Badassbusiness.coach is my website. And if you need help, contact me. Let me help you set up the perfect expectations. No, not perfect. Better, stronger expectations, clear communication, strong boundaries, and get to that next level to where you won't be disappointed. You're going to succeed. Have a great week. I look forward to hearing from you. Cheers.